My wife and I have been married 20 years. We started dating in high school when I was a junior and she was a senior. We were long distance for her first 2 years of college while I was in high school and did 1 year at community college. Then we went to college in the same city for a year, and have lived together since. We got married this summer after I graduated college. Our marriage has been pretty great so far. But I initiated a divorce after I discovered that she was sleeping with multiple other men for the 2 years we were long distance. Just after Christmas, we got together with a few friends of hers from college to catch up, have dinner, and hang out. We talked about a lot of stuff and my wife mentioned that we met in high school, not that we dated, just that we met. Her old college room commented that it was crazy that we met in high school, had a few wild years in college, then ended up together. I played along and commented that I didn't know if my wife was as crazy as I was. The roommate started to tell a story, but my wife cut her off and said she was uncomfortable about it. I sensed something was up, so I said that we actually started dating in high school and were together for my wife's entire time at college. All of my wife's friends got real quiet and the rest of the dinner was awkward. On the way out, one of her other roommates took me aside and said I should have an honest conversation about what happened at college. I asked my wife on the way home and she kind of blew me off. I told her it was important that she was honest with me and again she said it wasn't important. When we got home, I told her I was going to stay at my brother's house until she was ready to talk about what happened in college. The next day she came over and admitted to sleeping with several men during her first 2 years at college. She said she didn't consider it a big deal at the time because we were long distance and she didn't think a high school romance would last. I pressed for more details and she said it was at least 10 different men including at least 3 guys she introduced to me as friends when I came to visit on weekends and 1 guy she was still in contact with. I told her that I wanted a divorce and would be starting the paperwork as soon as I could, which I did on January 2nd. Her family and most of my family is telling me I shouldn't throw away my marriage over a few mistakes. I've stood by my belief that cheating on me with multiple men for years is unacceptable no matter when it happened, and the fact that she continued to maintain relationships with these guys right in front of me was an unacceptable amount of disrespect. We have 2 children, but they are 17 and 19 and I believe they will understand why I need to end the marriage. Am I wrong for leaving? I feel like I'm going crazy with the amount of people telling me to overlook years of infidelity and decades of lies. First, let's talk about the things I learned about the situation in college. After talking to my wife in sessions and texting with 2 of her roommates, it's clear that her roommates knew something was up in college. They said though the situation was weird and likely involved cheating. My wife had told them that we both had some wild times in college and worked it out before we got married, so they never really brought it up. The roommate who pulled me aside recently was uncomfortable with the fact that my wife clearly didn't talk it through with me, and wanted me to know. As far as being introduced to guys she slept with, apparently that was not intended. For one of the guys, he ended up dating and then marrying one of our mutual friends from college. This is the guy she was in contact with. In the other situations, she initially blamed me in the counseling session, but has now agreed it was bad. When I went to visit her, she planned to hang out in the room or just hang out together alone. But I wanted to go to a few parties because in HS and community college, I didn't really have parties to go to. She didn't expect me to meet the guys, but they were at the parties and she felt she didn't really have a choice. I still think this is kind of shitty, but it's not as bad as her intentionally parading me in front of the guys. Most of our discussion in therapy has been talking about why I think it's a big deal and she doesn't. She initially said that none of these guys were in relationships with her and it was mostly one-night stands or FWB. Since she didn't view them as romantic relationships, she didn't see the big deal, her words not mine. My opinion is that we never said that was okay and she actively prevented me from doing the same. After digging into this across 2 sessions, and my wife talking to some friends, she now agrees that it was a breach of our trust/relationship. This is the shared understanding that has helped us talk about this situation more honestly and helped us get from arguing to talking, which is why I'm optimistic about co-parenting. Now, here's why I'm 100% set on divorce. 2 things came up that make me want to leave the marriage. First, about 10 years ago we went through a really rough patch and had a dead bedroom for about 2 years. She had expressed that our sex life was becoming boring, so I tried to spice things up, nothing crazy. Just roleplay and like Spencer's gift-level sex toys. Apparently, she had been hung up some sexual experiences that happened in college, that she is not comfortable talking about, and wanted me to try them. But when I did, it made her feel awkward and guilty that it made her think of other men while she was with me. The fact that she's saying these experiences were meaningless, but they're still impacting our marriage tells me they meant more than she wants to say. Second, she admitted that she has been flirting with coworkers on business trips since the pandemic ended. She says she has never slept with anybody, but it got as far as going on a date with one of her male coworkers. That was the absolute deal breaker for me. We have told our children that we're getting a divorce. We told them it was due to some bad decisions that we made in college that we're having trouble moving past. My 19-year-old, who is in college, asked me if I cheated on my wife while she was away at college. My wife got a little shaken up, but admitted to the kids that she's the one who cheated. We have agreed to not share any additional details with the kids. I reinforced that both us will be there for the kids and that we are in therapy to help make sure we handle this in the best way for the family. I also told the kids that if they wanted to talk to either of us or a therapist about it, that I would fully support it. We've started talking to a mediator about how to proceed with the divorce, and unless things change, we should be able to have an amicable divorce. We're both financially stable on our own, we have no major debts, and our kids are older, so custody isn't a major issue. This has been a shitty couple of months for me, but I'm doing okay now, and I honestly am grateful that my last post blew up because it both validated some of my feelings, but also motivated me to go to counseling with my wife. My wife and I have completed our divorce and everything is official. We had an uncontested, amicable divorce with minimal disagreements. Our lawyers worked together to create the plan through mediation and a judge signed off on it a few weeks ago. In the end, the actual divorce process was pretty straightforward. The only complication was that our 17-year-old was adamant about my having custody because their relationship with my ex-wife has really fallen apart as a result of this. Initially, my wife dug in her heels and was ready to give up on the uncontested marriage, but my son pretty much told her she could choose between letting him have a break for a few months to process and rebuild, or force him to live with her until he turns 18 and risk never seeing him again. I felt this was a bit harsh, but my wife backed down and we moved forward with my having primary physical custody until my son's birthday later this year. For my part, I have encouraged my son to be open to fixing things, as the actions my ex took before he was born didn't change the 17 years she cared for and loved him. Fortunately, as the divorce moved forward, he has been spending more time with my ex, and I'm optimistic they will work through this. In the end, we pretty much split our retirement and investments 50-50ths. For our house, my wife really liked the house and I didn't, so she kept the house and most of the furnishings and took out a mortgage to pay me back half of the equity and half of the estimated replacement value of the furniture. Pretty much all of our other stuff was either easy to split: my car and her car, my music gear and her hobbies, clothing, personal effects, etc., or we just agreed to sell it and split the resulting profit. Things were a bit easier for us because we had already documented most of our valuable items and electronics for an insurance rider we added to our home insurance a few years ago. Things have been going well for me personally. Both of the kids spend most of their time at my place and we are still very close, which was my biggest fear in the divorce. I have a new house that I really love, and I gave into the midlife crisis urge and traded in my outdated minivan for a Lexus LC550. I even had a woman at work, not a close coworker, invite me out to a coffee date. While I was upfront with her that I'm not ready to date just yet, she said she would be happy to take a rain check and would be happy to go out with me when I'm ready. I'm honestly thrilled because she's really smart, has a great sense of humor, and our positions at work are far enough apart that we don't really work directly with each other at all. My ex and I are continuing to go through couples counseling together. We have transitioned into having closure on our marriage and making sure we maintain our relationship enough to be effective co-parents. While these sessions have been great to help me process things and keep things as healthy/positive as possible given the circumstances, it has also reinforced that divorce was the right option. It's clear from some answers in the sessions that my wife immediately started dating once the divorce process started, so whatever love was there was clearly on the way out already. I'm pretty sure the coworker she was just friends with dropped her off at our recent session. The fact that it doesn't even really make me mad is a good sign that I was also probably done with the marriage. In the end, it will take a long time for me to heal from the betrayal, but I feel like I'm making good progress, and I can honestly say that the divorce was unquestionably the right decision. I've probably cried more in the last 4 months than I have in the last 20 years, but for the last month or so I felt genuinely well about myself for the first time in a long time. I'm enjoying having my own life, been busy getting my 17-year-old ready for college in the fall, and looking forward to a coffee date with a smart, funny woman in a month or two. Second story. I have been married with my wife for 7 years, and we met 8 years ago in a church meeting and we became friends. My wife is a quiet, kind and beautiful woman, any man's dream, therefore it was obvious that I fell for her instantly, although she always behaved with what I thought was shyness, not wanting to cuddle with me or only kissing me on rare occasions. We both were raised in Christian families in a part of our country that is really religious, but unlike me, her parents were always the type who follows the holy doctrine really seriously, so she has a traditional way of thinking about religion and how women should behave, so I always thought that it was because of that her behavior is like that. Sometimes I think she looks like a robot. She's nice and kind with everyone, but a couple of times I saw her staying all quiet staring into space like if she was dead. Over the years I began to take it as something normal on her personality because she always refused to go to the psychologist and always said that she's just like that. Until 2 months ago, when she found out that the woman who was her best friend in high school was coming back to the town. I never saw her so happy and alive. I felt happy for her, thinking that what she needed was a female friend. My wife never used to leave the house, but since that woman is staying in the town she has been going out as much possible. She became a different person, but not in a bad way. But she looks full of life, and to be honest, I never saw her smile as much as when she tells me that she will go out with her friend for a coffee. For the record, I'm sure she's not sleeping with her because she doesn't know how to lie, and her behavior with me never changed. I'm not going to deny it. Days ago I started to feel jealous of that woman, that she is the reason why my wife smiles so much and is on her phone all day. Out of pure curiosity, 3 days ago I entered her FB and some albums were public. She had a lot of albums and I found pictures of her and my wife during high school. That woman was hugging my wife as if they were a couple. In some of the photos they were holding hands or looking at each other with bright smiles, which is something she never does with me. Her family hates gay people, although my wife never talked ill about them but just avoid talking about the topic, which now makes sense to me. I don't know whether to confront her because maybe I'm just thinking too much, or maybe she's in love with her ex-girlfriend. The only thing I'm sure of is that she only looks happy talking about that woman, so I don't know what to do. I decided to confront my wife and ask about the photos with her friend during high school. Everyone in the post said that they are most likely just friends and made my mind feel more in peace, thinking that I was overthinking, but when I showed her the photos she began to breathe fast in what I think was a panic attack. I helped her to calm, but then she got upset because I sneaked in her friend FB. I knew she was trying to change the subject because she loves to do that, so I got serious and told her to talk. After a few long minutes full of her trying to change the topic, she ended up telling me everything. Indeed, she and her friend used to be a couple during high school and friends since kindergarten. They kept the relationship as a secret, pretending to be only best friends until my wife's parents found out and beat her up, separating them. Her friend moved to the capital that year and they never saw each other again, but for what my wife said and showed, they never stopped loving each other. In some point of the conversation my wife stopped calling her friend by name, and without realizing she started calling her Mia more, which hurt me because in all years married she never called me like that. I asked her if she was cheating on me with her friend and said that they never kissed or anything, but I'm sure she's emotionally cheating me. She doesn't know what's that concept, so she really believes she's not doing anything wrong. The reason why her friend never wanted to meet me or even go to our wedding is because she hates to see her love married with a man she doesn't even like and living a lie. Ouch. I asked my wife if she loves me and said yes, but like a best friend, yes. My own wife just friend-zoned me. She cried a lot, saying that she's really sorry for lying to me. When we meet we really clicked as friends, and she told me that her parents insisted her to marry me so she could heal. That explained why she never liked to hug, cuddle or do anything romantic with me. It wasn't because she was shy, but because she didn't like me. I wanted to lose my temper and yell at her. I wanted to cry and even run away because I was patient and empathetic with all the times she rejected my affection and I felt alone. I've even been thinking for years that maybe I'm a bad husband and I was treating her badly without realizing it. Feeling insecure about my own personality, but she assured me that I was never the problem. I didn't cry or yell, I just left the house and came to my sister's house. We didn't talk about divorce or anything like that. I even think my wife doesn't see any problem with what she did with her friend, but I'm sure that I don't want to spend all my life in a loveless marriage with a woman that will never love me back. I'm sorry for the long post, I'm just venting at this point, but I feel like I wasted all my youth. I didn't expect it to update so fast, but I needed to talk about that. It's not like I don't feel bad for her, I do. But now I feel even worse for myself. I come back to my house the day after my last update and my ex-wife was there laying in the couch. The first thing I said when I entered was, "We're going to divorce." Maybe that wasn't the best way of saying it, but she had the habit of changing the topic when I want to talk about serious things, so I didn't want her to do that this time. She clearly didn't expected that and started to cry and have an anxiety attack, saying that we can't divorce, that I can't do that to us. But what hit me harder was, there's no point in us breaking up. The fact that I don't love you doesn't change anything, which is true. I realized that our relationship was always like that. Her treating me just like a friend and me accepting that kind of trait. She said that she never cheated or anything like that, even if I explained again what's emotional cheating. I told her that she's not even attracted to man, so there's no sense in staying married because we're just not for each other, and asked her if she still loved that best friend, and she didn't deny it but kept insisting that we shouldn't divorce. I can understand why she was so desperate, but it made me feel used. Like if I was her pathetic beard who she can always use as a shield for herself, or a dog who will always be happy with the smallest token of affection. I don't need her signature anyway to get a divorce, so even if she doesn't want to, we're 100% going to break up. I told her I'm not going to take her out of the closet, but if anyone asks I'll just say the truth, avoiding this sexuality topic because I don't want people gossiping and assuming things that didn't happen. The lands and basically all the things of the house are mine, and maybe I'm an asshole for this, but I told her that I will not give her anything because it's all mine and I inherited the land from my grandfather. At this point she just looked sad and defeated, so didn't complain or anything. Although I will get advice from a lawyer to be sure. I told her that she can stay until December in the house, and she answered that she will probably have to come back to live with her parents, which actually made me feel bad because my ex-in-laws are not good people, but for what she said. She's still talking with her best friend, so luckily she's not alone. The conversation finished awkward with me just leaving. For now I'm staying at my sister's house. I can have time for myself since she and my other sisters are out of the province for a concert. I didn't talk with my ex-wife after that day, and she didn't try to contact me, but I know that she told my ex-in-laws about the divorce because they wanted to contact me to ask why we're divorcing, but I just answered that these are things that need to be resolved only between her and me. So this will be probably my last update because I will go and see with my ex-wife after the divorce. We don't have childrens. Sometimes she started talks about having a baby, and now I feel really relieved of always saying that I didn't felt ready. Maybe something in me was already telling me that she wasn't for me, so we don't have anything that tie us together. I have been going to the psychologist since I was a child, so I think that has helped me a lot to channel my emotions. Many in the comments said that I shouldn't have empathy or things like that for her, but we're both broken people that suffers from a religious trauma, and I know how bad that messed up people's mind and heart. Some people in the comments were confused about why I stayed with her when she clearly didn't love me romantically, but I don't know. Maybe I always justified her actions because somehow I felt identified with her. Maybe I have a hero complex, or maybe my sense of duty is too strong that I felt internally tied up with her and responsible of making her happy as her husband, even if she always rejected my romantic love. I don't know, that's something I will talk and work with my psychologist. Also, I received questions like why I married with her in the first place, and she was the one who said we should marry, and I was immature and young at that time, and because we got along well I thought it was a good idea. For now I just want a divorce and then spend time with my family. I don't feel like I lost a wife, but like I lost a close and good friend and company. Not a heartbreak pain, but a betrayal pain. Anyways, I don't want anything to do with her anymore. Maybe I'm being a bad person for abandoning her knowing the type of life she had, but I can't save a person who doesn't want to be saved, and I'm tired of trying. For now I will just say goodbye, maybe not to a woman I saw as the love of my life, but to a woman who helped me and was a good friend for years. I'm getting divorced, but it's a tedious and lengthy process. I'm keeping the house, the car, everything. I'm selfish? Maybe, but I wanted to think of myself once in a lifetime. Working for those things is hard, and I dedicated my life to building my house. My ex-wife is currently living with her brother. She never asked me how I was, neither when I left the house after finding the truth. But I did check if she was fine, sending messages the first days asking how she was feeling. I suffered a mental breakdown a few days ago because she keeps sending me texts saying that we should come back together. We should have a child. I never wanted to have a baby with her, and she insisted a lot of times in that, and that it doesn't matter that she doesn't love me. She never loved me and we lived well, so I should go on with the marriage for her. It made me realize she's only trying to make me feel guilty, so that just made me understand that for her I'm not even inhuman. Maybe I'm not even a dog at her eyes, so I just blocked her number. I understand she's anxious because she doesn't have anything, but it's not like I've never told her to finish a career, so to be honest I just give up on her. I'm too tired of this situation. I don't really know what she's going to do with her life, but I don't care anymore. My psychologist made me realize all the narcissistic traits she has. I want to move on with my life because I deserve that and because I'm tired of being used. Hi, it's been a long time and my other posts here got deleted, so I give up in trying to post a final update and forgot about this site, but today I saw that someone posted it on a site, and I think it's good to post an update because I saw that there are people who keep sending me private messages asking how I'm doing. I'm finally divorced. I thought it would take at least 8 months to complete, but it was faster than I thought, since in my country it takes the signature of only one person for the divorce to be completed. She started making things complicated for me when she realized that we were really going to part ways. She even made up that I had cheated on her when I had only said that we were going to divorce because of differences. That way no one would ask. Not even her parents, who now think that I'm the one who cheated, but I don't care. But as I always say, I got tired of trying to understand her and her actions. She started to bother me a lot, even coming to the house, and I didn't want to deal with her anymore, so I just gave her a few of the furniture and appliances in the house even though I paid for everything. It doesn't matter, she was a housewife, so after all she deserves her share in the divorce and I know her. She would have kept insisting, and I was so feeble-minded at that point that I just wanted to stop seeing her forever, to be free of her. I guess she came out of the closet herself because now she's dating an older woman and living with her as far as I know. I don't know if she lied to me and I don't want to know it. I don't want to know if that woman is another lover she had. I don't want to know how much they know each other. I don't care. I don't want to hurt myself with that. It's her life, so at least now she's being herself. My sisters wanted to go and beat her up when they found out, but I told them not to go or she could take advantage of that. I found out about a lot of other things she did behind my back, but I don't want to talk about it, just that I'm a big fool. I hope she can finally be happy and stop using people for her own good. Since I know she wasn't happy with me and I wish happiness for myself too. About her best friend, I really have no idea what happened to her. My sister knows that woman's wife, and to this day they upload photos together with the baby. My sister couldn't talk about it to that woman's wife because, well, she doesn't have any proof. I've been feeling good. I'm not going to lie and say it's easy. I think people on internet have more empathy for my ex than for me when I talk about this, but I think now I don't care anymore and I rather this that way because I reject being a victim. I have my family and friends being my biggest support. I used to hide a lot of things from my psychologist because I knew that he would tell me that those things are wrong, and a big part of me didn't want to hear the truth, but a few months ago I was totally honest with many things that happened in my marriage. He scolded me a little but has helped me to see all the abusive things that I suffered. Even if it was not something physical, I think that mentally they damaged me a lot. I'm not going to play the victim because I refused myself many times to get out of there and keep trying like a fool. I don't see myself as a victim. I've been a victim before and I don't want to feel that way again. I've been going out with my friends to clubs. Having married so young, I lost part of my youth because I had to work, study and keep a house, so I've been really enjoying partying. Less than a month ago I started dating a girl. It's nothing serious, but we enjoy each other's company. It's weird to be with a woman who makes me feel appreciated, and she doesn't look at me with boredom when I talk. I'm really quiet. Some people called me sexist for saying that being quiet is a good thing, but I never saw it as a flaw. But she's too talkative, so it's always good to have a talk with her. My ex-wife and I had almost no intimacy. I have a trauma and it was hard for me to feel comfortable being intimate, and now looking back, I thought my ex just wanted to make me feel comfortable, but now I see that she used my trauma as an excuse to not touch me. Every time I tried to get comfortable, she would just say, let's stop this or you'll have nightmares later. I was very stupid too to believe all that. She just didn't want to touch me. But thanks to this girl I've started to enjoy myself and feel comfortable. Not many things happened honestly, and I doubt many people would mind about this, but I thought it doesn't damage me to post an update. After giving the appliances and furniture to my ex, she just totally stopped talking to me. I've been focusing on myself. I feel like I'm too young to be divorced anymore, but I feel good. I feel like this has been my biggest sign to start again, and I want to move forward for myself and my family. I think I learned a lot about this, as painful as it still is. Third story. My ex and I met when I was 20 but were only friends until we started dating 2.5 years ago. I found out last year that my ex had been cheating on me for basically our whole relationship with a girl he met through a mutual friend. I broke things off after I found out and told the girl's fiancé about their affair. He ended up breaking off their engagement after he found out, and she seemed nonchalant about it until she realized that my ex's money wasn't actually his. My grandma left me a lot after she passed back in 2019, and my ex had been flaunting around the things I'd gifted him throughout our relationship to her. Even going as far as to claim that the house and antique car my grandpa left for me in his will were my ex's. It's not something I'm proud of now that I think back to it. But I did allow my ex to walk all over me for the first month or two after I broke things off because I missed him so much. I gave him money and tried to make things work, but would always get reprimanded by my parents and friends when I'd run to them crying after he ghosted me for her. I didn't officially give him up until the girl's ex-fiancé messaged me and told me that she was rubbing it in some of their old friends' faces about how pathetic I was and how desperate I was for my ex, who didn't even give an F about me. I was really upset and asked him if he'd be willing to meet up with me because I knew that if I talked to my parents or friends about this, then they'd just lecture me even more. He agreed, and the two of us met up at a random food cart place. We ended up spending most of the day just exploring and talking about how we were doing. He'd also confided in me about his relationship with his ex. They'd known each other for 10 years and they'd liked each other for most of the time they were friends, but he wasn't looking for a relationship because he was focusing on school. He had decided to give them a chance after she'd driven 12 hours overnight to him because they'd talked on the phone, and he said he was feeling under the weather and was stressed from how vigorous his residency schedule was. She'd dropped everything to take care of him, help clean his place, and made him some home-cooked meals after finding out that he was surviving off of vending machine snacks and instant coffee. He told me in detail about how he'd never felt so loved and cared for, how after she'd done that for him, he decided that she was the one, that if this wasn't love, then love wasn't real. Finding out that she was cheating for the last 2 years made everything click into place. She'd been pushing off getting married, telling all her friends that she was having doubts about him. He'd been trying to convince her into going to couples counseling when I broke the news to him that she was sleeping with my ex. I felt like a monster, hearing their love story and then realizing that they didn't get their happy ending because of my ex, and I messed with my head. We continued to talk from time to time, checking in on each other and meeting up for quick bite every now and then. We lost contact after the girl my ex cheated on me with somehow convinced him to take her back. I became slightly depressed after he cut me off, explaining to me that he was still in love with her and wanted to work things out, which meant a clean slate. I found out through some internet snooping that my ex cheated on her too, which was why she went back to her ex-fiancé. A few months passed and things went back to semi-normal. I started getting therapy and was about ready to put myself back out there to try out the dating pool again when around New Year's I got a call from the guy. He was crying and asking if I was available to talk. I of course said yes, and out of concern met up with him at his place. He broke down to me and told me about how he'd found her and my ex in his mom's guest bedroom during Christmas when she'd snuck him in for a quickie during his family's busy holiday party. All hell broke loose when he'd found them in the guest bedroom after spending 20 minutes looking for her everywhere. We drank a bit and ended up having sex. He apologized and told me that it was a mistake and he wasn't in his right mind. That he just wanted revenge sex, but it didn't make him feel any better after. I tried to message him platonically a few times after to see if he was alright, but he blocked me. So I dropped it and went on with my therapy in life. I went in last week to check with my doctor since I'd been getting bad cramps and to get a new prescription refill for my birth control that I used to help with my PCOS. I had to do a usual test to double check for the possibility if I was pregnant and was very surprised when it came back positive. I have been sitting on this new knowledge and have been contemplating on if I should tell him, not tell him, or if I should even keep the pregnancy. My doctor did inform that since I am still in the earlier stages I am still at a big risk of having a miscarriage. So I don't know if I should even be worrying at all about all of this since there is a chance that I could lose it. And then it'd just seem like I was trying to grab at his attention or something, especially after he'd made it clear to me that he wasn't comfortable talking to me anymore after we slept together. I haven't told anyone and have been going crazy because I don't know what to do. I know a lot of people were against this, but I went through with the pregnancy and I am forever thankful for my beautiful baby. I had originally planned to get an abortion, but I found myself unable to go through with the appointment. I am pro-choice and always will be. Just because I chose to keep my baby doesn't mean another woman/girl should be forced to keep a pregnancy they do not wish to continue. Everyone has a right to their own bodies. My parents were very upset with me and my whole family disowned me. I listened to what some of you said about letting the father know. We'll be referring to him as Dave. After many failed attempts to reach out to him, I decided to go in person. Dave was not happy when I showed up at his place, but when I told him why, he agreed to talk with me. Dave let me know that he'd officially ended things with his ex and wanted to go no contact with me because I was another tie to his past with her. But he was willing to try and figure out a co-parenting plan with me if I agreed to a paternity test first. I of course felt a bit bad about the paternity test part but agreed to it since we both had only been acquaintances that bonded over our trauma. Everything was honestly easy cruising until I started to spot around the 26-week mark. My OBGYN explained that while spotting is normal while pregnant, mine was heavier and my blood sugar/blood pressure also both worried them because of gestational diabetes and preeclampsia risk. After a few nights of Dave insisting on sleeping on my couch, I had him help me move some of my things to his place since he lived closer to the hospital. I am very thankful I decided to semi-move in with him when I did. I went into premature labor at 32 weeks. I am very thankful to have had Dave and his family as my support system. His mom would come and switch out with him at the hospital and advocated for me whenever I felt washed out or unheard. She helped me both emotionally and physically and stood by me. Dave's mom also helped me work through my emotions when all I wanted was my mom. She and my dad had gone no contact with me after I decided to keep and have my baby. Dave's mom was an absolute godsend also because she's a retired nurse. She started in OB, went to NICU and eventually later settled into lactation before retiring, and explained things to me when we found out that my baby had respiratory problems and had SUA, single umbilical artery, and that it could have been a factor into why I went into premature labor. She stayed with Dave and I so she could help me with pumping since I wasn't able to produce milk, and encouraged me when I felt like such a failure for not being able to take care of my son when he needed me most. She drove me to and from the hospital while my son was in the NICU because I was healing and so mentally/physically exhausted. I really and truly believe that I didn't fall into deep postpartum depression because she held me and helped me with each step and was always so patient with me, even when I wasn't with myself. Dave's mom would constantly remind me that nothing was our fault and no one did anything wrong. It's just that everyone is faced with hardships in life, and this was one we'd work together to get through. My son graduated from the NICU and came home a month after I did. Dave's mom visited us often and helped with him since Dave and I are first-time parents. Dave's dad joked that he felt like she and I had the baby together, and he and Dave were both just background characters that make guest star appearances every now and then since Dave was working so much in order to build more PTO, and his mom wouldn't bring his dad along when she'd come visit since she didn't want him to disturb me and the baby with his loudness. Dave's dad is hard of hearing and can sometimes be unaware of his volume, so he took no offense to it. Dave's siblings and family members posted a lot about our son because he was the first grandchild and first baby in a long time. Dave's youngest cousin is 17, turning 18 this year. Somehow someone must have shared a photo or something, but pictures of us reached my family and my parents demanded I let them meet my son. Dave was supportive of whatever I chose to do and said he'd agree to them meeting him if that's what I wanted. After thinking about it for a few days, I decided that I wanted to talk to my parents before I let them meet my son. When we met up to talk, my parents were offended that I didn't bring my son with us and left him with Dave's parents. They said some really hurtful things, and then my dad started to question on when Dave was going to ask him for permission for us to get married since we didn't already have a shotgun wedding while I was pregnant. I was okay with them insulting me since I'd grown up with it and was used to it. But once my parents put their target on Dave and his family, I became upset and decided it was time for us to leave. My parents did try to petition for legal visitation rights. Honestly, before this whole ordeal, I did not even know that grandparents' rights existed, but were denied because my son is still very young and because both Dave and I are very much on good terms, are living in the same household, and they couldn't find or prove that there was any danger to our son's well-being. My family did try to reach out to us and claim that we were horrible people for denying my parents their grandchild. But no one ever seemed to be able to make a peep when Dave's family would defend us and point out that my family had been the one to disown me and that no one cared to see if I was okay until after I had the baby and everything was handled. Dave's mom and my mom got in a verbal, almost physical, altercation after my mom had made false reports to CPS and called the police to do multiple welfare checks on us. My mom was given a warning by the police for harassing us after one specific incident where she threw a tantrum and caused a scene when the police found nothing wrong in the welfare check and refused to listen to her demands to have my son temporarily taken away from us and put in her custody for his safety. Dave and I currently have restraining orders pending against my parents and certain family members. One of the reasons I decided to update is because about 2 months ago a friend of Dave's asked him out to have some drinks and they ran into his ex-fiancée, who later messaged him to tell him that she regretted the way they ended and how she was very hurt when she heard that we had a baby together, especially with it being so soon after their relationship. Dave wouldn't talk to me about how he felt, and when I asked him he just brushed me off or switched the conversation onto a topic about our son that he knew would distract me. I noticed Dave pulling away from me and how our relationship became a bit awkward and strained after their run-in and her message, because I know he still has feelings for her and I am afraid that he might feel trapped with me and our son. I also noticed that the drama with my family has made Dave and his family less patient with me and my son. During Mother's Day, I overheard a few of his family members make comments to Dave about me being at their family barbecue since I was just my son's mom and not really part of the family. Dave just shrugged and said I didn't have anyone else to spend the day with. With how tense things have been, I have been thinking about moving out and back into my place. I stayed with Dave at his place after I gave birth. But now that our son is slightly older and I am healed, I want to give Dave back some space so that he can start dating again if he wants to, and to give him back some more bachelor time when I have our son. I want to find a way to approach me moving out and us making a co-parenting plan without making things more awkward or possibly ruining the relationship I have with Dave and his parents. I don't want them to feel like I'm not grateful or anything, but I do want to go back to work and get my life back on track so that I can provide my portion of needs for my son and not want to depend on his family for more than appropriate. I've been trying my best to not check my phone or Reddit since I'm honestly a little overwhelmed right now. I will let you all know that I did talk to Dave and he was against me moving out. He also wasn't willing to talk about the situation, how he's been acting after running into his ex, and said I was bringing up something that didn't matter since we were talking about me wanting to move out. I haven't said anything about what I heard during Mother's Day, and I don't think I'm going to mention it since I feel really bad that it was meant to be a private conversation, so I don't think anyone meant anything bad. During our conversation, Dave let me know that maybe I'm just overthinking or overreacting and that I shouldn't make big decisions like moving out. He also talked about how because our son is a preemie, he'd prefer if one of us was a stay-at-home parent until he turned 2 to 3 years old so he could catch up with his peers, and then once he started pre-K then we could go back to work again. But I feel like he's been trying to avoid me since the conversation, but I could also be overthinking like he said. But after reading someone comments, I do feel like I'm valid in the way I feel, but I am also not sure anymore. I want to do what's best for my son. I know people already think I'm so dumb and that I shouldn't have had him, but I am trying to be better for my son. I feel like he's my only family left and I really want to try to do what's best for him.
Thanks for listening, everyone. If you enjoyed today's story, make sure to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to Red Relationships to never miss a future upload.